Hello and welcome to Treasury Notes, a financial education program from the West Virginia State Treasurer's Office. I'm your host, Gina Joins. The main responsibility of the State Treasurer's Office is to process payments and manage funds for the state of West Virginia. But ensuring those monies are dealt with in a safe and secure manner goes beyond what actually happens in our office. Coming up later in the show, see how the Treasurer's Office provides training for other agencies to make sure everyone is practicing the same procedures for cash handling, a necessity for keeping your money safe when doing business with any state agency. But first, we want to educate business owners and individuals throughout West Virginia about another program within the Treasurer's Office, the Unclaimed Property Division. Joining us now is Carolyn Atkinson, Deputy Treasurer of the Unclaimed Property Division at the Treasurer's Office. And Carolyn, we appreciate you taking time to talk with us today. Thanks for being here.
I'm happy to be here.
There's a lot I want to cover today. We haven't talked about unclaimed property here on Treasury Notes for quite some time. But let's just start by talking about what unclaimed property is, because for many of our viewers, they might not understand what the term unclaimed property is. I know a lot of times when we say property, they think of tangible items, but most of unclaimed property is actually money, right?
That's correct, Gina. So unclaimed property is any type of interest that an owner, the person who owns the property or has the rights to the property might have. So, for example, it could be stock, it could be a bank account, it could be a check that they didn't cash, it could be a bond. There are a lot of different types of money representations, and so any of these can become unclaimed property if the owner loses contact with that property. And when that happens, then the business that's holding it for the owner has a duty to try to locate the owner, and if they are unable to locate them, then to turn it over as unclaimed property at that point.
And we get this, I hear this all the time, oh, there's no way I have unclaimed property, it just couldn't happen. But a lot of times you see people who have rented apartments when they were in college, maybe they were due back a deposit, or maybe there was an overpayment on the utilities back years ago. Those are all types of monies and funds that can end up in the state's unclaimed property fund, correct?
Oh, certainly, as well. So if someone has, say, a summer job, they might not cash the last paycheck, or they might not be there to get their final paycheck, and that payroll could become unclaimed property as well.
Let's talk about the tangible items really quickly before we get into some of the other issues we want to talk about. There are some unclaimed property items that are actually physical property that you can see, and that comes from safe deposit boxes at banks, right?
That's correct, Gina. So if the owner doesn't pay the box rental for a period of 5 years, it becomes abandoned and turned over to us, and then we advertise, try to find the owner, and then those items become subject to an auction if after a period of time we're unable to locate the owner.
Unclaimed property is not land. A lot of people think when they hear the word property, you think of real estate, but that's not the case, is it?
That's true, and I would say at least once a week somebody calls or asks about their land, some interest in land, and we don't have anything to do with land. It's really mostly intangibles and then safe deposit box contents.
Well, there has been an issue that's been in the news very lately. It's a scam that goes around every now and again regarding unclaimed property claims, and we've had this issue right here in West Virginia where there are people calling, claiming to be with the National Association of Unclaimed Property Administrators or some other official organization. Can you tell us about this scam, how it works, why it's a fraud, and how people can try to be safe out there?
Sure. This is a very unfortunate and frustrating circumstance. So there really is a legitimate organization that's called the National Association of Unclaimed Property Administrators, or NAPA, and it's an organization of the states. But NAPA does not itself hold any money for anyone. There is a site that people can go and search for their money that the states are holding at missingmoney.com, but NAPA does not have money to give out. Well, this particular fraud, and we've seen a number of them, there's a letter that's being sent around that uses the NAPA letterhead, in fact, and tells people that they've won a substantial amount of money. So in this example, $750,000. They said, you have won a contest for $750,000, and it makes it appear that it's real, because it goes into great detail about IRS rules and whether they're correct or not, and tells people, oh, beware of fraud and be careful who you deal with, and make sure that, but in the end, it asks them to pay an amount of money to be able to proceed with it. And of course, there's nothing to proceed with because there's no real money there. It's just a fraud. So I know a couple people that were each defrauded out of $2,300 because they actually believed this. Now, the way that you can tell the difference with states is states do not charge people money to collect their own unclaimed property. And so the best thing is to go to the state.
Go to the state, go to your state treasurer's office. In some other states, the unclaimed property is held in another division, but many of the states hold it in the treasurer's office. And we always encourage people to call the state treasurer's office if you have questions. That's how we found out about the last scam. And a lot of times you say, sometimes it's in the form of a contest, you want a contest. Sometimes it can also be in the form of a letter where they say, you are due this money, we just need to keep a portion of it, you need to send us all your information, correct?
Right. So there is a distinction to be made between a fraudulent letter or fraudulent offer and one that is an actual locator for unclaimed property. There are businesses that will take a percentage of someone's property in order to claim that property on their behalf. But what I would say is that in those types of businesses, they're regulated, and they have a limited percentage that they can take, and they will have a contract, a written contract with the individual that sets it out. If something that seems like an unrealistic amount of money, like $750,000, if it sounds too good to be true, chances are it probably is. But legitimate air finders and locators, they actually run businesses that way. I would still tell people, go to the state first. See if it's any state that you've lived in particular West Virginia, check with the state and see if the unclaimed property is being held there.
And you said it earlier, but just to reiterate, the office, the state treasurer, never charges to process these claims. So you don't have to go through a locator to get this money. You go contact the state, go to the website. I'll give the website right now, wvtreasury.com. You can go there and search for your name and see if you have unclaimed property. So it's an easy process to verify if you do get official correspondence, which is a point I want to bring up. We do some correspondence with people who are rightful owners of unclaimed property.
Right. So we have been sending out letters to unclaimed property owners to let them know, hey, we found a name match for you in our database, and you may be entitled to unclaimed property, and suggesting that they go to our website and file an e-claim at that point. So they're actually going to the treasurer's website to do that. So that's not a case where we're saying, give us your bank account information. We never ask for that type of information. We never ask for credit card information. We don't take payments. We just direct them to our website where they can file a claim for unclaimed property.
And it's a really simple process for them to get started. If additional information is needed, someone from the office usually contacts them, right?
Correct, that's correct.
And this, the letter that would be sent out from the state treasurer's office is on official letterhead with John Purdue, the state treasurer's name on it. Not that always, a lot of these other scams, the letterhead looks official. So the best advice is to contact your state treasurer's office, or if you have a local field officer with the state treasurer's office, to contact that person and see if it's legitimate.
And remember, we're not going to ask for money, and we're not going to ask for your private banking information.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing we do is publish these bulletins every year in the newspapers. At least twice a year, there's a long list, sometimes 13 to 1,500 names, 15,000 names, I think, are published biannually in the newspaper, and it's something that we're able to reach out to these people to see if they may have unclaimed property. Another thing that's started more recently is the Friday Five on Facebook and Twitter. Social media, we're getting involved with social media really to promote the program and to see if we have holders out there.
We're always trying to find more owners and give back more property, because we know that it's not our money. It belongs to the citizens. And so that's our goal, is to be able to reunite the rightful owners with their money.
And staff works very hard. I know you're proud of your staff, I'm sure, at the effort that they do to make sure that these claims are processed correctly, that they reach out to people who are due unclaimed property? Talk a little bit about that process.
So there are several different ways that we reach out to owners, and as I had said before, one of them is to send out letters to updated addresses. A lot of times when we get unclaimed property, it's an old address, and that's why the owner didn't get their money to begin with, because they'd moved. And so we have access to a database that will allow us to get updated addresses, and then we will send out letters to those owners and tell them that they need to follow up and see if they are indeed the person that we believe that we're holding the unclaimed property for. So that's one method. Then, as you said, the ads are another one. We also have booths at fairs and festivals and senior centers. We have people that actually go out and look for unclaimed property owners and try to find them. And so millions of dollars of our property are paid out that way as well.
Field staff has a great success going out, and sometimes they'll actually knock on a door and say, here, we have some information for how you can claim this property. You know, another thing is that we talk about the individuals a lot, but unclaimed property isn't just about individuals. Sometimes there are businesses, nonprofit organizations, churches that State Treasurer John Perdue has given money back to through the Unclaimed Property Program. Talk a little bit about that and the civic duty to make sure that these organizations get their money as well.
Sure, that's very true, and as we know, a lot of times nonprofit organizations are on a limited budget, and it's very helpful to them to receive their unclaimed property. So it could be someone died and left money to an entity or an organization, but they never really recognized that for whatever reason it wasn't brought to their attention. And as you said before, it could also be a bill, a deposit, a utility deposit, or it could be a check, a vendor kind of check that was owed to them. It could have been a pledge. There are businesses that actually report money to us that were pledges that they had made to that nonprofit organization, and then for whatever reason the check didn't get sent or cashed, and so they turn it over as unclaimed property.
I know sometimes to educate the public, we do public presentations to make everyone aware of what the Unclaimed Property Program is and how it works. But deep down, it must make you feel pretty good to be able to give this money back. Talk about your job in particular and just the kind of feeling it is. I mean, that's got to be a great job.
I tell people that I have the best job in the state because I get to give people their money back, and what's not to love about that, right?
Right. You don't hear that very often when you're talking about a state, so it is fantastic to be able to give money back. And there's a lot more I want to talk about, Carolyn. I appreciate you joining us, but we are going to pause for a quick break right now. When we come back, though, we're going to talk more with Carolyn about our efforts to return unclaimed property. Plus, Sarah Withrow, the Unclaimed Property Receipts Manager, will join us to explain the process businesses must go through to ensure this property is turned over to the Treasurer's Office so that everyone can get their money returned to them rightfully. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Babies are expensive. Formula, diapers, daycare. That's just the first year. Oh, wish you could start saving for college now? The Piggy Bank Fairy is granting wishes of college savings to new parents by contributing $100 when you open a Smart 529 account.
Enroll in West Virginia's Smart 529 Bright Babies program before your grandchild's first birthday or Gotcha Day, and Smart 529 will contribute $100 into your Smart 529 college savings account.
Wishes do come true. Register in the first year, so when they sit up, it's time to sign up.
To learn about Smart 529, its investment objectives, risks, and costs, read the official statement available from smart529.com. Check with your home state to learn if it offers tax or other benefits for investing in its own 529 plan.
Welcome back to Treasury Notes. I'm your host, Gina Joins. I'm here today with Carolyn Atkinson, Deputy Treasurer of the Treasurer's Unclaimed Property Division. And joining us now is Sarah Withrow, Receipts Manager for Unclaimed Property. Thank you both for joining us. Welcome back, Carolyn. And Sarah, it's great to have you join us now. Carolyn and I talked a lot about giving back unclaimed property and returning it to its rightful owner. But your division focuses on a little bit different aspect of unclaimed property, and that's making sure that the office receives unclaimed property in the first place. So let's just talk about what receipts processing is and what that role means for the Treasurer's Office.
My department focuses on making sure that the reports come in from the holders. So twice a year, there's 2 different reporting periods for receipts. life insurance reporting, which is due on May 1st of each year, with a cutoff period of December 31st of each year, and then our largest reporting season, which is every other entity, and that is due on November 1st, with a cutoff period with the fiscal year end of June 30th of each year. The holders send in their reports, the reports are processed, and after they are processed, then once at that point they are available for claim to all the owners.
Well, when you talk about holder, let's just break down that terminology a little bit for someone who may not know. A holder is really equates to a business, right? Some type of business out there that has unclaimed property. Why would a business have unclaimed property? How does that happen? And how do you ensure that the Treasurer's Office is getting that money?
If any business should pretty much have unclaimed property. If they don't, then they're really on top of their game. That means they're really on top of their bank reconciliations, they're staying on top of their customer contact, etc. Like I said, probably 90% of businesses will have unclaimed property. You will have either a vendor check hanging out there or possibly a payroll check. From the Treasurer's Office standpoint, we would have LGSs that go out in the field that will try to teach businesses what unclaimed property is, tell them, that it is a law that we do need to file. We hold different training sessions to educate people on filing, on who needs to file, what their specific filing requirements are, and try to just spread the word throughout our seminars and just different.
Sure, and there's a lot of that going
methods
on right now. So businesses, banks, any type of business, a car dealership could have a paycheck that was due an employee that was never cashed. Those are all types of things that end up as unclaimed property. Carolyn, I'm going to switch to you for a second and just talk about the importance of Sarah's role in her department, the receipts management process, where they are making sure that holders report correctly and some of the particulars about what they do.
Right. Well, clearly we wouldn't have any money to give back if it weren't for our receipts department. And so they have to process those reports, but they also have to be very meticulous in making sure that they're entered correctly and trying to get good information from what we call the holders, the businesses reporting, so that we know the right person to pay back that money to. So that also means noticing when something looks off and contacting that business and getting clarification from them if they need to. And our receipts department does an excellent job of getting the money in and getting the properties entered into our database so that then people can rely on that to be able to file claims.
And find their own money.
Find their money.
All right. Well, we said to go online. If you think you have a claim out there, definitely check online and just you can type in your name, but you can also, if you're a holder, if you're a business, or if you have some type of business relationship, you can go online to get more information on how to make sure you are in compliance with the code and how to make sure that you are reporting all the unclaimed property that your business may have. You also do continuing education, correct? And that's something that you've been focused on a lot here very recently in the springtime, doing holder workshops and educating the businesses and their payroll people and different people within their office to make sure that they are not leaving any stone unturned. Talk about that and talk about these workshops and how they are working out.
The Treasurer really stresses education. So we go out, every year I've been here, we have had holder workshops each year, whether they have been in different areas across West Virginia in different regions, so we could reach out to holders in different areas, not just within the local city here in Charleston, but we've been in areas such as Martinsburg, Beckley, Clarksburg, different places like that. But this year we have decided to hold them in Charleston, so we just finished up one of our 4 holder workshops here in our office up in the Kanawha City area, where we brought in holders that they sent in their finance officers or their CFOs or their accountants, whoever does their unclaimed property filings, and we went over education, compliance, how to file the reports, and some common mistakes that we find on reports that would prevent us to be able to pay back the claims once we get a hold of the reports and the money.
And the one thing that's a little different this year with, as you said, sometimes the Treasurer's Office has gone on the road and taken the workshops to different parts of the state. This year, you're doing industry-specific workshops. Talk a little bit about that theory and why it's important to talk to specific industries about what their exact regulations are.
This year we focused on 4 different industries. We did a financial industry, we did healthcare, we did state agencies such as like your Board of Education and Corrections, and we also did healthcare industry. Each industry has some different intricacies that they are exposed to, different types of laws, whether they're based by the commissions that they're audited by or whether they're based by the dormancy periods that they fall under. Of course, banking has some special circumstances in it with safe deposit box reporting. So they obviously had an extra session within their holder workshop on how to report safe deposit box reporting. Healthcare, we had some special laws that were introduced back in March of 2012 on how to report estates from nursing homes when a resident dies. So there's different intricacies within the laws that are exposed to these industries, and we wanted to give people the opportunity to come in and be able to ask questions in smaller groups and not be in a conference room with 100 people and feel intimidated that if they asked a question that they felt like it was too simple of a question to ask, to be embarrassed and not feel comfortable asking. And then we would get a lot of follow-up the next day and say, well, I wanted to ask, but I was afraid to ask, or I felt like it was a dumb question or something. So we just wanted to make them feel more comfortable and to kind of be able to get to, down to the meat of what they needed to really file those reports. And then we found that in the industries, there were certain errors that were being found on their reports that were specific to the property type codes or the relationship type codes or the missing information that were holding up their reports that made them unavailable to, or us unable to process those and complete them. And when we're missing one person's information on a report or have to have clarification of one person or 2 or whatever, and we have a report with 100 names on it, until we get that one little piece of information, we cannot make those other properties available for claim. So that one little piece can hold up a whole report and slow everything down.
Yeah,
and in the meantime, you could have the other owners calling, inquiring about their funds because they've already called the entity and found out that it's been reported to the state. So
a lot of paperwork, a lot of accounting that you deal with in that job. Carolyn, talk just a little bit about the success of being able to go out there, educate the holders, and what kind of feedback do you guys get?
Well, I think we have always gotten good feedback that they like this positive approach to compliance, to encourage them. We believe that people pretty much want to do the right thing. Most people do. They might just not know how. I think this year we've had even better feedback than usual because people feel like this training that is geared specifically toward them and in a small group setting, has been helpful. It's been on point for their job, and they've really come out and appreciated it. And we also tried to gear it towards the actual people that do the reporting this year. And so hopefully that saves us some extra time and effort in the fall or in the spring, either one, when they have to do their actual reporting.
Any feedback that you've been getting, Sarah, really quickly?
Yeah, we've got quite a few emails of people that were very happy that it was a small group. They felt like it was more geared towards them, that they were able to ask more questions and get more one-on-one training to see maybe some examples, and even to ask us more specific questions because they had more time to be able to do so, whether it was in the open forum or maybe some extra time during the lunch time that was allotted.
And hopefully, eventually, maybe doing some workshops online through webinars and things like that.
We're definitely going to be planning a webinar because we have, interest in other areas of the state, people that weren't able to travel, especially up in like our northern panhandle and stuff. So we have a list of holders already that are interested in it. We'll be reaching out to the rest of our holders in state and other areas, even ones that are within this area that couldn't attend just because maybe the dates were not, at an applicable time for them.
That's fantastic. All right. Thank you both so much for joining us here today, Carolyn. I really appreciate both of you being here. It's been fantastic. And again, we want to remind people to go online and check and see if you have unclaimed property. The Treasurer's Unclaimed Property Division, though, isn't the only division that offers training to meet industry standards. That's right. In 2011, our Cash Management Division created a handbook for state agencies outlining the proper procedures for cash handling. Now the Treasurer's Office offers continued education on the policies and procedures at the Cash Handling Conference. Of course, as Kim Ward explains, there is more to cash handling than just cash.
I oversee the day-to-day operations of AR, accounts receivable, and our accounts payable. So I oversee all the cash transactions, the daily cash transactions.
For employees like Phil Snitz, handling all the cash and credit card exchanges for an agency is a serious responsibility.
Because it's us that is the first safeguard of the taxpayer's purse. And that is very, very important to the future of the state of West Virginia.
Staying on top of the proper procedures for handling cash receipts is important, but there is more to proper cash handling than making sure the spreadsheets are balanced at the end of the day.
Really, we came wanting to find out more about the PCI compliance. That's one of the things that we needed, and we needed to work on that with our IT department.
These days, the majority of payments come in the form of credit cards, not cash. So payment card industry, or PCI, compliance and training is a key component of the State Treasury Cash Handling Conference.
Non-compliance can lead to financial penalties, of course. These are handed down card brands and slap the wrists of the acquiring banks, and the acquiring banks can slap their wrists. And you could even get into a situation where if you're not compliant, there's a breach, that looks really bad, loss of business. Not only are there financial penalties, but it feels real bad too.
The conference also offers an opportunity for state agencies to learn about the many ways the Treasurer's Cash Management Division can assist them.
Because there's a lot of options out there that people may not know about, that the Treasurer's Office in particular offers.
For others attending the conference, actually meeting Treasury staff and industry counterparts is beneficial.
Definitely the networking, being able to talk to the staff from the State Treasurer's Office. It's been so helpful to answer all of our questions.
Conference sessions also touched on hot topics like identifying and preventing fraud, but one of the most inspirational sessions may have been the presentation about creating an engaged workforce.
As we're creating this engaged workforce where we want people to come to work and be glad they're there, their perspective has to matter, which means we need to make sure that we're asking everyone's different perspectives.
Supervising state employees, it's difficult to continue to engage your employees, keep them willing to continue to progress in their careers, and different types of personalities, how to understand how to deal with different perspectives is always good.
For those just wanting to brush up on the basic cash handling procedures, the Cash Receipts Handbook for West Virginia Spending Units is available online at wvtreasury.com. Reporting for Treasury Notes, I'm Kim Ward.
All right, thanks, Kim, and that's all the time we have. Thank you for joining us. Remember, you can always get the latest news and information from the State Treasurer's Office. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and on our website. Keeping you informed on the Library Television Network, I'm Gina Joins with the West Virginia State Treasurer's Office.